he just wanted to know the truth. Like, where do we really stand, and why is it hard, or why is it easy, and what's the best way to get through it?
And welcome to another episode of For the Record. It's your Duke, Dave Sholden. I had to do a little arm twisting for get my co-host here to talk a little bit about his career and really about the man that he had worked for nearly 20 years at Arista Records, and that would be Clive Davis. Very timely, and we had a wonderful tribute just the other day for Clive. Rick Basiglia, can you tell us about your time at Arista? But first of all, just so we get a little bit of a snapshot about how this all came about. You were in radio because we worked together when you were in New York at WXLO 99X, and you made that transition from radio to working at Arista. How did that all come about?
That's a good one. Hi. It's strange to be on the other side. It's just a nice thing that we're doing here. The station, as you might recall, changed format from pop top 40 to urban, and it became the famous 98.7 Kiss FM in New York. So I was out of a job, but I knew a lot of the record people, and there was an opening at an Areola Records. To make it quick, Areola was a little label under the Arista umbrella. And I was there calling secondary radio stations. And at that time, my boss, Richard Palmisi, who then left Arista when I took over for his area, and he hired me to do AC, adult contemporary promotion. And from that day on, as you said, 17, 18 years plus, I stayed there and worked with Arista and Clive. So that's how I ended up on the record side.
Well, and you attended the amazing tribute recently for Clive in New York. And so many great moments during that tribute. Did anything stand out to you? I mean, there are so many amazing speeches and performance by Jennifer Hudson, and anything that really hit you
Well,
at one point,
I
something
think
poignant.
I think that the general feeling in the room in the synagogue, a most beautiful synagogue, was just there was a nice calmness. There was a calmness, and everybody was in a calm, sad but calm mood, and everybody got to see some of your ex coworkers, and it was just really mellow and sweet. And regarding the speeches and the tributes and the eulogies, they were just really perceptive, from Barry Manilow to Bruce to Mr. Davis's. Sometimes they say Mr. Davis, Mr. Davis's children, uh, Doug, and we went from there. So it was really beautiful. And for a Clive event, it was shorter than usual.
There had to be a lot of memories that come flooding back, but let's do a little backstory about your early days at Arista working with Clive, and what was that like? Just getting your feet on the ground and going, okay, here I go. I'm now the head of adult contemporary. Went on certainly to be the head of promotion, but the VP. What was it like to that in those early days? And you're going, this is, what do I do? What
Well,
am I doing?
I had a boss in between us at that point, but I kind of thought he was a celebrity. So I didn't really realize that I would ever talk to him at the beginning. So whether it was a Barry Manilow record or early on Air Supply record, he would call every so often and say, not about how are you, this or that. It was always the station's not playing. He would get a printout of the station's not playing. So my first times talking to him would be, why aren't they playing the record? It wasn't like, how you doing? What's going on? Why are these 15, 20 stations not playing? And then, of course, I would BS my way through that the best I could.
He expected
I
you to have the answers. And there are legendary stories about the weekly meetings that Clive would have with everybody, all the different departments. Can you take us into one of those? What were those like?
well, I'll move forward to when I was the head of promotion. So at that point, we had all of our department heads. So I'd have the adult contemporary person, the alternative person, the hot AC person, whatever the formats were. But the thing is, a secret is, I used to have a pregame show with my staff. I said, okay. He would call me. At that point, I was talking to him 10, 15 times a day about records. So I would call in my guys and I would say, look, he's going to bring up Taylor Dane. They're going to bring up Expose. And I kind of knew what he was going to ask. I don't know if it was cheating, but it was a pregame show. I said, remember, and you'll know this from radio, you got 15 seconds. Go in and go out. Give the answer. When you start rambling, you were left alone out there and at sea. So I tried my best to give them the what answers. But basically, what Clive did in those luncheons, which are famous, it wasn't just about the greatest ears. He was a great music person, but he knew everything about every department because it was all the departments there. So it was promotion and marketing and A&R and publicity and finance and blah, 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 blah. And the way he just knew how one department worked with the other and kind of blended, and he would kind of say to the promotion person, hey, um, record B is number 19 in Cincinnati. And right, he would go to the salesperson. Well, in Cincinnati, it's number 19, but Q102 is not playing it. Why is that, Rick? So he had a way of just knowing how each department worked with each other. And I don't say pitting, but he definitely challenged us. And being in the promotion seat, it was definitely the hot seat for one of the hot seats. So yeah, it was his knowledge of every area of the business. So not just his A&R greatness, it was his knowing every detail from why is a station in Huntsville went from 18 spins to 12 on Kenny G. I mean, it was crazy. In front of 30 people, we have to answer these questions.
So you had to do preparation because he was certainly prepared. He had all the info, and you couldn't walk in unless you were armed with all everything that he was going to ask for. It's like, Rick, what's the answer?
Well, the other thing to bring up that just about I will get there is it was also a forum where he played a lot of new music. So he would play us a song and everybody would say, okay, who thinks it's top 10 or who thinks it's top 20 and clap. So there was a lot of music played before. So the question of being prepared, what was your question again, Dave? I'm sorry.
Yeah, Clive was certainly prepared for not only your department but all of them. So you had to have that, just like you mentioned radio. Well, show prep. You had to be ready with the answers. You never knew exactly what he was going to ask, but
And
in
that,
case he does,
well, I was lucky enough to have these conversations during the week a lot more often because of the position than a lot of the other people. But he would throw curveballs. I guess the best thing with him is he just wanted to know the truth. Like, where do we really stand and why is it hard or why is it easy and what's the best way to get through it? So it was, the homework was, I think I was fortunate in my own head that whatever the 10 records we were promoting at the time, I had a basically pretty strong feel of where each stood. And like I said, we had all the format heads. And if I really didn't know the answer, I would just say Mark Rizzo or whoever held a format
Mm-hmm.
to give their perspective. I let my format heads do their role as well. So yeah, I mean, believe me, half the time we didn't know what we got busted. Of just like, okay, you're right. Let's leave
Sure.
and go do what you say we need to do. Sometimes
Yeah. The other you had mentioned this briefly is Clive's amazing ear for talent and songs, and that was mentioned by Bruce Springsteen when he spoke uh, eloquently, and even his opening line was pretty funny, talking about how Clive being humble, and then the room laughed, and of course he went in to talk about what he was really such a giant in this industry, and there were three that actually he put him together with Mo Austin, Ahmet Ertegun, and Clive, even though there are certainly several others, but that's a big change in the music business. I don't know if there's anyone. Is there anyone even close?
I don't know. There'll never be an era like then because we went to work to, loving music. It was a like I was not. I was. We were promoting music, so it was fun, but at the same time we had challenges. And one thing I thought of with Clive is as tough and as vigorous and aggressive he was to push us as far as he could. There would come a time if a song wasn't going to make it. That was always the hardest part to
That's
share.
I was going to ask. That's it.
But
They're not all giant smash, hits.
but but the thing that about him when something didn't make it or it wasn't going to happen, he was the first to say, "You gave it your best shot.
Mm.
If you guys couldn't do it, it couldn't be done," which was an amazing compliment. And then it would be on to the next four. It would be, it didn't happen. We're over. We're done. He wasn't a sore loser at all. Not at all.
Did now obviously you weren't dealing directly as an A&R person, but would Clive bring you and maybe some of the other promotion people into a room to say play something and what do you guys think?
100%. He always did. He always did. And he did the same with the field staff, meeting our promotion people in the different cities. They were responsible for what he called a biweekly report. So
Mm.
everybody in the field would have to write about how their records were doing in their market. But back to music, we would always send pre-cassettes. And Clive was so open to radio. He loved radio. He loved radio so much. He believed in it. And he would really respect what radio said. And if he was after song A and it was difficult, but radio said song B is the hit, he would take that information very seriously. So yeah, he got our opinions through not just the people in New York, but the people in the street, in the field. He always wanted everybody's opinion because they're the ones out there really talking to the stations. And he also was very open to the field. And I don't have examples of this if you're going to ask, but a lot of times if the field, meaning the staff in the field, heard songs that were happening in Charlotte or in Tulsa, he would say, send it to me. He would encourage the staff if there was a song that was being played out of left field or was selling at a retail store, tell him about it. And he would be open to signing if that person had a little data that was working in Tulsa or working in Houston or whatever, he would take that so seriously and send one of his A&R people the next day to meet the band. So he had a lot of respect for feedback, and never, as much as they say the man with the golden ears, which he did, a lot of his golden ears was listening to others.
So he would want, he would look for that honest, I mean, you're not going to BS him and tell him, oh yeah, things look pretty good when they really don't, or the other way around.
The
If
problem with
somebody,
it, that's true. So if somebody wrote in their report, this record is going to do great and it's getting top 5 phones, that's an, and it didn't happen, he'll say, well, why did you say this? What happened? I thought this was a smash. So you had to be very direct. Of course, there was a
Mhm.
company camaraderie and cheerleading through priorities, but it's still, feedback should be honest. And I told our people, you got to just say the truth, or your perception of the truth, for
Yeah.
sure. Well, it's
So
funny doing this. It's funny we're in this reverse role. We usually do this together. Where's our guest?
I know the the
I don't know.
you,
It's weird.
it's all about you today, Rick.
Not me. It's about Clive.
It is about Clive, and but how about you? Just as a promotion person, and a lot of people get asked this who are on that side of the fence. If you personally hearing a song and knowing, okay, we've got to get this played, but really you didn't believe in it, you didn't like it, but your job was to get it on the radio
So
and
that's a
report to
really
Clive.
good question, because everything was not easy and the hard ones were. So you're saying something was difficult that would, you know what? Everything got a shot. And he was a brilliant man. He would know if I was BSing him after a while.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we can't get this. It's not going to happen as much.
Mm-hmm.
And on the equal side, where he was really open, is if there was a song in Atlanta, I'll give an example, Crash Test Dummies, the song,
Oh yeah, yeah.
wasn't on anybody's radar. And a song like that, just, God rest her soul, one of our local people, Linda Alter, got that
Mm.
on 99X in Atlanta as an album cut. And it exploded. And the point is, so Clive was open to hearing all those stories. He didn't just care about the records that he or the company said were priorities. If something came out of left field, take it on and he would then, because of how he ran the whole company, would get all the troops in line. So if that song was out of left field, we would go hard for it. So a lot of the songs were not priorities. And that's where Clive was great. He would be so open. I would say, look, this thing out of Atlanta is happening, but we're going to have these other records are going to be harder, but we need to chase the hit. As true as it is, you can't work sometimes 4 or 5 things at the same time to the same place. So
And the amazing one of those things, if you could talk about his incredible ability to over the eras from his time as the head of Columbia to Arista and the different genres and music had changed and he changed with it. A lot of times people get stuck into like a groove, but it didn't make any difference whether it was, the early days of now what's now classic rock into pure pop into the format that you started with adult contemporary and then
that,
into hip hop. It doesn't make any difference. He stayed current, and it's pretty rare because people usually
that
get
is a
into a
great question, Duke,
yeah.
because he would always say, when I was at Columbia, I had, I'm sorry with the voice. When I was at Columbia, what was Affiliate International, right? Was that the name of the label in Philly? The
That's
big, it
right,
was a
Philly
Sony, it
International,
was a
Emblem Cup,
CBS
yeah.
record.
Mm-hmm.
And he admitted that sometimes we needed to get back involved in our urban and hip hop. And that's Clive. Not only did he know that at Eras at that point we needed it, and that's when he made label deals with L.A. Reid and Babyface, with LaFace. Also
Mm-hmm.
made the deal with Bad Boy with Puffy at the time. So those deals came right at the explosion of hip hop to become more of a mainstream format. So that's where he was brilliant. And the same with country. We didn't
Well,
have a
great
country.
point. Yeah,
We didn't have a country. And he started and he hired the great Tim Dubois and Mike Dungan
Mike Duncan. Yeah,
and Alan Butler. And they had a little Arista machine out of Nashville and it was successful. So to your question, the urban labels, he did joint ventures and started Arista Country. So yeah, I mean, he knew
wow.
what was missing. So it wasn't like just him hearing a song. He knew we were missing a genre.
It's amazing because people have said, you get stuck into the music that you hear growing up. Sometimes that's your wheelhouse, and you don't move on from that. Clive was it didn't make any difference what the era was. He was right on top of it and knew not only from what I have heard, and you can confirm this, he studied the charts to know what the competition was doing. It wasn't just what his song, his artists were doing. What's going on here? What happened? What that's
I don't want to be exact, but I know for a pretty fact he would get the Billboard Hot 100 and somebody would order him the songs and he would go home every weekend. I'm pretty sure. How he did it, I'm not sure, but he did
yeah.
do it. And he would listen to every song that came out and wanted to know what was happening.
Wow.
Equally, if our competition was getting more airplay on something, he goes, how can blank blank be doing better than our song to just push my buttons to get me more motivated to to work on the he would always use, well, they're doing better than you. How is that one exploding and we're suffering? And it was just a motivational thing. But back to your question, yeah, he listened to everything. He listened to everything. He knew every record, not just
Amazing.
his. I don't know how
Amazing.
he. I don't know how like a lot of people on Friday night. Goodbye.
Yeah. We have
Sunday
to
night.
before we wrap up. We have
Yes,
to talk
please.
about the legendary. I was lucky enough to be at a couple of those, and
I was going to
where I
ask
went
you back.
the Grammy parties.
Oh well, I was going to add one other question to ask you
But
too.
you can
The
ask me, but you got to take the
the
Grammy parties were the first time I ever went to one. It was in LA. I just could not believe I'm turning my I think my head was on a swivel going, that's here, who's here? Everybody. I mean, from the movie world, TV, uh, and of course all the artists. It's just amazing.
it was it
Screwed
was
up.
it was amazing. Like you said, I couldn't explain it any better. It was his joy, his pride. He loved those parties. And working the party for me was different because I was one of the ambassadors, making sure that all the top
Exactly.
programmers were there, making sure that if Dave Sholin was there, to introduce him to Kenny G or to another artist. So it was just a great moment and he loved it so much and that's a great memory. So can I ask
You
you a
can
couple
tell.
questions?
Okay, go ahead.
So I like it better that way. So you were ahead of Gavin, and your keynote speaker was Clive one year, I recall. How did that
Yeah.
happen? And do you have any recollection of the 500-600 people in the room when you
Oh,
introduced him? And you interviewed him as well, right, Dave?
That was a separate. There were
Okay.
two different
Okay.
events.
Okay.
Clive did a keynote for us. It was the 25th anniversary of the Gavin magazine, which began as the Gavin Report and then morphed into the magazine. But so this was 83, and the magazine, Bill started that in, well, he actually had it a little bit before that, but it was really it was 58, 1958 when he began. So, and Clive, it really, that was more of a Bill Gavin connection to Clive, and Clive
I see.
wanted to do that. Bill wanted that to happen, and it was part of the National Association of Broadcasters convention in San Francisco, the NAB.
I see.
So uh, it was at the Fairmont Hotel. It was just an incredible night. And Clive he spent a lot of time just talking about his relationship with Bill, history, and the music business, and Clive being Clive. Then the other convention was in New Orleans, and you and I actually even had that meeting beforehand. Before we Clive and I were on stage, we went to Clive's hotel, if you remember that. Sat down with him. Do you remember?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah, we because he wanted to go over things. He want as and you were right there helping right from the beginning before long day, weeks before this happened. Clive wants to know this. He wants to know that. He did his prep for sure, and it
No,
was just an amazing one-on-one 90 minutes that I will cherish forever.
no.
And my first question, if you remember, was about Milli Vanilli because it was fairly recent at the time, and I knew his answer, but it was so fun to ask that, and the room just roared and had a great time. But he opened up, and it was just a special time.
Well, well, that's
But
great.
yeah, that's so we since this is called For the Record, Rick, for the record, how about the name Clive Davis comes up, what are the first few things that come to your mind in just a few words?
Fortunate to work and learn from him, and we'll miss him. That's it.
Thanks for letting us know.
Let's episode whatever this is, but we have some good stuff coming up, some good episodes coming up. So stay tuned. Huey was fantastic,
Yeah, it
and we're
was great.
still getting a lot of downloads. We're kind of blown away by it. So thanks everybody for listening and following, and the
And we
momentum will continue.
and and we'd love you to subscribe. But even along with subscribing, we love those comments. So if you have any comments, any memories of Clive Davis, please share those with us too.
Thank you. See you next time.